Hey, Jessica, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm in LA. You are in, I'm going to guess, Ogden, Utah?
I am.
Ogden, Utah is, I looked it up, by the way, before we had this conversation. It's about, I'm guessing, what, half an hour north of Salt Lake?
Yeah, give or take about 30, 40 minutes. Depends if it's snowing or not. Always takes longer. But yeah, we're just north of Salt Lake.
You're a hairdresser and salon owner from Utah. Actually, I don't know if you're from Utah, but you're in Utah, as we've already discussed. You focus on creative color. You're back to back BTC One Shot Award winner. Back to back. I wonder how many back to back One Shot Award winners there are. Maybe there's more than I think, but you're an educator and or an ambassador for several brands such as Dream Catchers, Extensions, Olaplex, and Duomo Pro, which I don't know, but we can talk about it. It's Italian, I can tell you that,
Okay.
because I used to live by the Duomo in Florence, Italy. That's a trivia question for the podcast listeners. Okay, enough about me. Tell us where you're from and how you got into this business.
So I'm originally from Northern California. I grew up in Rockland, California. It's just about 30 minutes north of Sacramento. Um, and I started beauty school in high school. They had a program there, it was called ROP, and I applied for that my junior year of high school
What
and
does
got
that stand for?
accepted and started regional occupational program. So it is for people that want to go into a trade school, and you go through a counselor. You have to apply for it, write an essay, get letters of recommendation, stuff like that. Attendance matters, grades matter, things like that. So I applied and I got accepted, and then I started going January of my senior year of high school back in 2006. And then I graduated in February of 2007 from Citrus Heights Beauty College. Shout out to them. And then right after that, I just jumped right into my first ever salon job at 18. It was a commission
Okay, hold on,
based
hold on.
salon in Rockland, California.
Back up, back up. Okay,
Back up.
in
Okay.
in high school, you, I guess, heard that there was such a thing as this program, and you immediately went into it,
Mhm.
or you were kind of second guessing. You were just going to try it out, or what?
No, I mean, I've always had a love for hair. I always cut my Barbie's hair. My mom would get pissed because the Barbie's hair didn't grow back, and then my brother would take my Barbie's head and flush him down the toilet. But that's a whole nother story. But I've
Yes.
always been into hair and makeup and fashion and all of those things. I started coloring my own hair with box color in eighth grade. The second I was allowed to express myself, I did it. And I always wanted to be a blonde, which is so funny because I'm not a good looking blonde, but it's fine. That's what I wanted in junior high school. And I just started playing and experimenting from there. And my parents always told me that the day I turned 18 that I better have my life figured out because I'm no longer going to be welcome there. So I had to make sure that I was working at Taco Bell at the time too to make ends meet and try to save to move out of my parents' house and get an apartment. And also I knew I couldn't afford college necessarily. I didn't really want to go to college. I didn't feel like it was for me, a traditional college anyway. And so when I heard about the program, when I was sitting down with my counselor, going over my schedule for my in my junior year to go over my senior year, he brought up the fact that they do have this program, and then that's when I just jumped in. I went into the orientation, and I actually have a twin sister too, identical twin sister. She's still in
Really?
California. Yeah, and she went to the orientation with me, but she didn't follow through with it. She wasn't. truly passionate about it. She's more towards the fashion and the makeup realm, where I was way more into hair. And
Okay.
so I applied and got accepted, and that's when I started doing that journey.
Super cool. And were you good at it initially in school?
Well, back then, it was, Victoria Beckham, asymmetrical bobs, and chunky Kelly Clarkson highlights. And it was very um, kind of tedious and very technical back then. Where now I feel like it's more artistic and creative. So there's been this journey, like in my career, of finding what I truly love and not just doing it for whoever walks through the door. I don't think anyone is necessarily great right out of beauty school, because we learn the most that we learn in the situations in the salon, being around people that will help mentor you and lift you up and help you grow. Where
Right.
with school, it's just kind of getting through school and trying to figure out what the next step is for you there. And I lived in California, so it was just like you had to make it work. There was no other option because it's an expensive place to live. And I actually worked two jobs when I first started out doing hair, and I was a server at an Italian restaurant too. Just trying to make ends meet in the beginning because I was at a commission based salon. And back then, there was no Instagram. I think Facebook just kind of came around, but it was mostly MySpace. But it wasn't utilized the way that it's utilized now. Back then, we were still passing out cards on cars and going to malls and passing cards out and just trying to like make people know that you exist in real life form.
In the real world.
Yeah.
So that's interesting about MySpace. MySpace, I remember MySpace. I loved MySpace because it was good socially, but it absolutely did not exist long enough to really become useful for small business people. And it's interesting you said that. And now, of course, we have the later generations of what was initially MySpace, and it's so valuable for independent business people. Nowadays, 2023, there's YouTube, there's countless YouTube channels, there's Instagram accounts, there's hundreds of subscription education and free education that you can get, countless things on balayage and many others. So when you're going through these transitions, when the industry was transitioning and your clients were asking for different things, there was none of that.
So this was back in 2014. I had my son in
Okay.
2013. So there was YouTube, but there was Gaitang on YouTube. That was pretty
Yep.
much the extent of it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like Gaitang even was a few years after that, but there really wasn't the education that we get now through social media, because really all we had was, MySpace or YouTube, but I don't think it was really utilized the way that it is now, for sure. I think it was a Sebastian class that I went to, and they were also a Wella based salon. And so within that first week of me being back at that salon, we actually had a balayage class through Wella, because that's when they launched their free lights lightener. And the salon that I was working for was a big account for Wella. So they were able to bring in an educator, and then we just painted on doll heads. And I hadn't done a class in almost 3 years at that point. So that just it solidified to me that I made the right choice to kind of step back and go back to my roots of kind of where I started, because I got a little ahead of myself, and I figured out that I wasn't ready to be 100% on my own at that
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm.
So I did the classes, and then I, started balayaging on everybody. I was like, who wants a balayage? I did it on a mannequin head. I can do it on everybody now. It's the trend. Let's do it. So I kind of just jumped into that. And then he saw my numbers grow at the salon and what I was able to do, that he actually promoted me. That he had a salon and spa in Granite Bay. And then so I went and interviewed for that and got moved up to the salon and spa, which was a higher price point, which means my commission was higher. I was able to make more money. And then from there, my daughter was born, and she's about, I would say 9 months old at this point. And my husband was kind of playing with the idea of us moving out of California. And by this point, his parents had moved, and we didn't have a lot of help with childcare. And I was only working part time. I was working 3 days a week. 2 days, one of my friends babysat both our kids, and then my husband was home on the weekends. So I worked weekends a lot. And he actually he collects pocket knives. It's this whole story, but he collects pocket knives, and he was on this pocket knife forum on Facebook, and has a friend on there that lived in Utah. And this guy, Eric, actually is his name,
Oh, it's an
posted
excellent
that
name.
his job was, it's an
He must
excellent name, yeah.
he must be an
Posted that
amazing
his
person.
job, he's a pretty awesome person. He's the reason why we moved out here, so it's pretty awesome. He posted that his job was hiring, and my husband, we were kind of playing with the idea, and I was like, well, reach out, like send him your resume and see what will happen. Like, what's the worst that they can say? No. So he reached out to him, and he said, hey, what does this job entail? This is what my resume looks like. Does it look like something that, your work would be interested in, whatever? And this Eric guy sent over the resume to his boss, and my husband had 2 back-to-back phone interviews. They flew him out to Utah. He did a week-long training here, got the job, and I put my 2 weeks notice in at the salon that I worked in Granite Bay at this point, of some clients that I had for 10 years at this point. Like, this is a 10-year span of everything that's happened. And everyone thought I was crazy. I mean, they all thought I was crazy. I had never been to Utah. I didn't even know what Utah looked like. I even hashtagged on Instagram and tried to look up on Google Utah hairstyles, and it terrified me. Because it was
I
like,
understand.
ask your man, can I speak to your manager, like haircuts? And I was like, no, I am not doing this. Like, I'm going to change the world in Utah. Like, I just had my mission of what I was going to do. And so we packed up our family, and we moved out here. My husband found a house for us to rent while he was out here doing his week-long training. And I packed up the house and finish my clients that I had in California. And we moved out here in 2 weeks. August 1st of 2016 was when we moved here. And my daughter was just about a year old.
Wow.
And then it was like, okay, I'm starting over. Like, what do? I didn't know one person besides this Eric guy that my husband talked to. And I didn't know anybody. We moved out here kind of blindly. Like, when we were driving out here with the moving truck, and we were going over the salt flats from Nevada to Utah, and there's like no one around. There's like no houses. There's nothing. And I was like, where did you move us to? Like I was panicking. And then we
What
got into
have you
Salt Lake and I was
done?
like, okay, yeah, I was like, okay, we're good. We're in Salt Lake. There's, humans around. Like, okay, I can see us, doing something cool here. So he started working, and then I kind of just took my time of figuring out what I wanted to do. I didn't know necessarily if I know I wanted to do hair, but I didn't know if I wanted to do it full time because I was still doing hair part time in California and I needed to figure out daycare, all of this stuff. Like, I don't know anybody, I don't know anything. So I had to do some research and, I added some groups, some Utah mommy groups, some stuff to try to figure out what I was going to do. I ended up putting him in daycare 2 days a week, and then my husband was home on the weekend. So then I was trying to find a salon to work in. I mean, I'm not from here, so I was like, what am I going to do? I also got rid of all of my hair color and everything when I made that transition to go back to a commission-based salon. I knew what it was like to work for myself and how hard that was on my own before I went back to the commission based salon. And that's when I had a clientele in California and it was still hard. So I was like, how am I going to make this work? I went into Ulta Beauty and I was like, okay, this is a commission based salon. Maybe I can start off here. And I did the whole interview process and they hired me. And I was only there for about a week, maybe two. And just off of the paycheck alone, the commission, all of that stuff, it wasn't worth it to me to, like, basically my paycheck was paying for my kids to be in daycare, right? So I was like, all right,
Sure.
I need something else for me. And so I found another salon in South Ogden, but it was a booth rental salon. But I was like, I'm going to make this work. Like, this is my passion. I have to make it work. But I remember the first time that I went to Cosmoprof and spent $750 at Cosmoprof to stock my cabinet without any clients. My husband called me and was like, you're taking away from our family. Like, you I spent way too much money. What are you doing? And I was like, I don't know who's going to walk through the door. I don't know who's going to message me. I have to have at least something that I'm able to, like, make this appointment work. So he challenged me at that moment in time and he said, I don't want you to take anything away from my paycheck or our family for you to be
Ouch.
able to do hair. You need to make sure. Yeah. So I rub it in his face now,
Yeah.
but I was
Yeah.
like, he's like, you need to make sure that you're covering the daycare, you're covering your booth rent, and you're covering your supplies without taking anything away from my salary or income. And I was like, all right, challenge accepted. That's just the type of person I am. Like, don't tell me no, because I'm just going to keep trying and prove you wrong. So I started utilizing our free tool called social media, and I had built somewhat of a portfolio on Instagram. Back then, I was going by Hair by Jessica Powers. And so I rebranded myself like a year later. But then I started, like I said, I added those groups on Facebook trying to find daycare. But I was like, now I can utilize these groups for my business.
Big time.
So I
The
started,
mommy
yeah,
groups
so
on
I,
Facebook
the
are a
mommy
gold
groups,
mine.
yeah. Hmm. They are. So I started promoting on there, running specials. I was just trying to get a client in my chair at that time. I was doing color corrections, balayages, whatever anyone wanted. I was doing it for $125 at that point, just to try to get my name out there. And then I did a referral program also. So I would give them a business card and I said I would give them a few. And I said, if you write your name on this and if you refer someone to me and they bring me this business card with your name on it, I'll not only give this person that brings me this business card, but also you 20% off your next service. So
Yeah.
that really gave them some initiative to spread the word of me being here and me running this special, and also thanking them for promoting me. So after 3 months of being at this salon in South Ogden, I was able to close my books off. I had a completely full book clientele. I was still only working 3 days a week at this point.
Amazing.
So then what I did, yeah, so then what I did is I raised my prices, and I was like, all
Of
right, well, I've
course. Good
been
for you.
strugg yeah, I've been doing these color corrections and these things for basically nothing to cover all of my supplies, of at least so I could prove to my husband that I could handle it, take care of it. And so then I raised my prices. I lost some clients, but I had a waiting list at that point because I had people still reaching out, people still referring. My name was getting out there more. So then I was able to go down my waiting list and get new people in my chair.
Yep.
And then about 9 months after that, at that salon, I just felt like I needed something different. You hear the saying, when you feel like you're the best in the room, it's time for you to shift and change and be around other people that inspire you. So I found another salon that I had been following forever and went and applied there and got the job there. But it was only about a month after I had been at this other salon that this Facebook friend that I had never met in person reached out to me, and she said, "Hey, look, I have this, I'm a salon owner in West Jordan, and I picked up this second location in Ogden, and I'm just not able to get there. I haven't been able to do anything with the second location because I'm stretched too thin and I'm trying to do too much. Like, you're amazing. Would you want to take over my lease for me?" And we had only been in Utah for a year at this point. And I was like, oh man, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. But also, I had a fire kind of lit under my ass, right? Because I was able to build my clientele, now work at the salon that I've always wanted to work in and got the job there. And so what's stopping me, like, at this point? So I went and I toured the salon. It was super outdated. I mean, it had been around for 12 years, something like that. It had big laminate stations that were like orangey old laminate stations. But it had potential. It's 2,000 square feet. And it was only like, when I was running the numbers, because my husband's a numbers guy, so he's like, all right, let's run the numbers. So I was just looking at the lease of the space, right? Not all the overhead of everything. Nothing can prepare you as a salon owner of all the overhead of everything. But so I just ran the numbers of what I was paying in booth rent already versus how much it would be for me to have a storefront full location, right? And I just felt like with these clients that I was getting, Utah needed education for sure. Like, I felt like they're kind of a little behind on trends. I remember at the salon that I was working at, I pulled out a ring light. Everyone was so confused that I had a ring light to take photos with. And then, I pulled out an actual paintbrush to balayage with, and they were all just like, who the hell is this girl and where the hell she come from, But I was like, I
Funny.
just feel the need that there needs to be a salon that is like a education hub for Utah. And I wanted to be that person, and I wanted to bring it to Utah because I felt like there was just such a need for it. And so I just said, let's do it, and just jumped on it because it was a risk, but that's what life's about, is just risk taking. And we've had our salon open in November. We celebrated 5 years. So I just slowly
Wow.
remodeled it. I went in and cleaned it all because it was a full functioning salon at that point. It just needed a facelift, right? So
Mhm.
I didn't have to like build it from the ground up. I didn't have to do the plumbing. I didn't have to do any of that stuff. It was already a salon. I just needed to get my LLC. I needed to do the inspection, make sure all of that passed. And I painted the walls because they were horrible, like this weird green color. It was with brown red stations. It was just not cute. So I painted the walls green and I put a decal on the window. And in 2 weeks, I was like, all right, we're opening. I just got a banner for the front. And then every weekend from there for the next 2 years, we slowly remodeled it. There was carpets in our little suite rooms that I had to pull up and found out under the carpet the foundation wasn't level. So then we had to lay concrete and then do all this stuff. So it was just like a huge project that we did, but I knew I didn't want to go into debt. I knew that I didn't want, because I had just pulled us out of debt. When we moved to Utah, I paid off all of our debt, and I knew I didn't want to put myself in that position as a business owner that I could lose it if something happened, you know?
Mhm.
And then yeah, COVID happened. So I was happy
And
that
then
I didn't
COVID
have a
happened.
business loan. And then COVID happened. So I was happy I didn't have a business loan, but it was a slow process, but we were able to remodel it and make it what it is now. And, if people have gone in and seen the salon, I always like to, I have a whole album on my Facebook that's the remodel of the salon because I was super proud of it. And I am still to this day for sure.
That's great. So in Utah, how long were you guys closed down and through COVID?
We were only closed down for, I think it was 5 weeks. So it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It was the tail end of March when everything was kind of like really crazy. And then it was all of April. And then we were able to come back May 1st.
Yeah, certainly better than California. I think we were shut down for like a total of 11 months or something ridiculous like that. So, yeah, good on you there. Okay, so now
It's,
your salon, you focus on a certain kind of services. Does the whole salon focus on vibrant color, or is that your specialty?
so the whole salon itself is booth rental. So
Okay.
everyone there works for themselves. They are their own business. Um, but what we want to cater to and specialize in is expression, self-expression, and people being able to be authentically and uniquely themselves without the judgment or pressure of society, right? So we attract people that are more alternative, that want more color in their hair, that feel like their hair is an expression of who they are, and they want people, when they see them, know that they care about their hair and take care of it. So I actually didn't really start doing vivid hair until about 4 years ago. When I first started doing hair, Pravana was it, right? That was the vivid hair color that we did, but it was like little peekaboos, like kind of underneath with your A-line or whatever. It wasn't anything like it is now, but I always love color and I love the brightness and stuff. And I didn't have vivid hair until, it was funny, when we first moved here, I was like Googling how to attract new clients, right? And like one of the first things that came up was color your hair a bright, bold color and that will make people just automatically comment about your hair, and it opens up that kind of give and take conversation with somebody. So the next day I went and colored my hair like fire engine red over my balayage.
Nice.
I just had like a normal California girl balayage, and I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this, and I know I'm kind of comfortable with red. So I just put red over it, and sure enough, the second I went out, people were commenting on my hair. And so from being from California, you really have to know how to do blonding work because everybody there wants to be pretty much blonde. So, well,
Hmm.
that was my clientele anyway when I was there. So I really, I checked the blonde specialist, if you will, off my list. I checked the balayage off my list because that was a challenge for me that I didn't have. And then I dived into that and I knew that I could do that. And I was like, okay, so what's next for me? And then I was attracted to vivid hair. And that's when I found, KCO and Amanda Harsh and you like all of these people that were making huge moves. Rebecca Taylor, I mean, all of these people that are making huge moves in the industry, even Guy Tang with
Hmm.
these vivid hairstyles. I wanted to be a version of them, but still me, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to express art on hair without um, limiting myself. So that's when I started doing models and I started playing with my own hair. And once you start posting that and you be that advertisement for yourself, that's what you're going to attract naturally in the salon. Now, people
Hmm.
think because we love to do that and we post about it a lot that we can't do anything else. That's not true. We do everything else. We do extensions, we do balayaging, we do blonding, we do, you know, half of my clients are just root touch ups and a glaze and a trim. Like you have
Right.
to have those clients in your chair to provide for your passion of doing your models and doing the shoots and stuff that you want to do, but you still need that steady income of those root touches, those highlights, those things, because it's not necessarily all about you, the artist, all the time. It's about servicing your guests as well.
Absolutely. That's the downside of being so focused on social media is that maybe you get pigeonholed a little bit, right? But the upside, of
Hmm.
course, is that you get more of your passion, as you said. And so in Ogden, Utah, or maybe even Salt Lake, some people probably drive up there. Some people who want some vibrant color, they see that you're close enough by, and so they'll drive up to you. And then I guess slowly over time, your percentage of vibrant clients is going to grow, and your percentage of maybe root touch-ups will maybe shrink a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a longer service for sure. You have to have a lot of stamina to be a vivid hairstylist because you're essentially doing two or three services on one guest. You're having to lighten their hair completely, remove any pigment or color that they previously have on their hair. It's like a color correction. And then you have to tone or do whatever you need to do, conditioning treatment. And then you have to dry their hair. And then you're starting a whole new technical process again to be able to overlay your vivids on top of it. So, really, you have to know as a vivid artist that you're probably only going to be able to do maybe two guests a day if you're doing vivid hair, because especially if it's not just an overlay or a refresh, if you're doing a full service of vivid hair, you're having to go in and clean that blank canvas and then start completely over again and do two appointments essentially on one client.
Now, you said you've been doing it for about 4 years. And if I'm not mistaken, that's about when Pulp Riot came out and they were big. You mentioned Casey, she's with Pulp. So I imagine you're using Pulp Riot for a period of time. And it was it was something that I like to ask a lot of our guests back then, because I've been doing this now 5 years. So I've interviewed a lot of them, including David and Alexis Thurston a couple times. They're right down the street from us here in LA. So a lot of what I like to ask back then, if I was interviewing somebody like that, was it's such a bold look, right? Not for everybody. Some people were adopting it, some people were doing it and then not doing it, and some people are keeping it up. It's kind of a high maintenance look, right? As it fades out, sometimes the client doesn't like the way it's fading out, so they have to go back in. And so kind of fast forward from where we were then to where we are now, where is the vivid color trend? And what do you see in terms of like the products that are available out there? And what do you see in terms of maybe its place in pop culture, and how is that affecting what clients want?
Well, if anything, it's made, I think a lot of people thought that vivid hair was just a fad and that it was going to go away. But I've noticed that more people are open to it. I mean, I think when I first came out here, people thought I was crazy. They're like, "You're in Utah. How are you going to be able to create a clientele off of vivid hair when it is more of a conservative state?" And I'm like, also, you attract what you want to have in your chair, right? So people that are willing to have more vibrant, bold hair color naturally are, I have found, more confident with themselves, that they don't care about what other people's opinions are. So they're doing it to fulfill some want and need within themselves, that it has nothing to do with anybody else. So I have also found over the last year that people are becoming more bold with it, with the e-girl money piece and the big face framing. Before it was just kind of put it over my balayage and have it more kind of lived in with my natural hair in between, where now it's like people are getting undercuts and designs in their hair. They're putting flowers and mushrooms and all of this like cool stuff on their hair that we're able to collaborate with barbers on. And it's bringing more of this like unity with cosmetologists and barbers together, that barbers want to color now and have more desire to want to get in and do these cool bright colors, because it just accentuates their design more, or they're wanting to work with cosmetologists more. And I did a collab with P Cuts last year and we made top 5 for BTC for that one, and that was like my first ever collab with a barber ever, and it was an amazing experience that I only want to collab now with people.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the collab thing has not died off. I mean, COVID tried to kill off the collab thing, but it's still very much a thing. In LA, I get hit up. People are flying in from, high profile hairstylists from wherever will fly in and they want to collaborate with somebody. And so they'll spend a couple of days and they'll do that, and they'll get all this great content and make lifetime friendships and stuff. COVID put that on ice, and I think it's back, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Last year I did one collab, and then this year for BTC I actually did, I think, 5 collaborations, maybe. So maybe 6. But I just tried, I mean, I travel and I educate a lot too. So wherever I'm traveling, I'm trying to see who's around that area that I could collab with, and then we could do it together. And it's really awesome. Like I collabed with Mermaid at her salon, and after I taught a Dreamcatchers class, and I just stayed an extra day, and she had a model, and we did kind of a one-on-one extension install, and we were able, like, she's great on TikTok. I'm still trying to figure out TikTok. I mean, I'm trying to figure it out. I don't talk any bad about it, but it's just another thing. But she had so many
Yeah, it's
sounds, so
another
many
thing.
things, so many saves. It's another thing, but she was able to create this TikTok content for us in that collaboration, and I learned so much off of her just doing that. It's ever changing and ever growing, and you just need to surround yourself with people that are just as passionate as you are. And, when you're in a room full of opportunity, you just need to sit there and shut up sometimes and just learn.
Mhm.
So, I think collaborations are a huge thing that I think more people should be doing, because that's where you're going to learn the most, especially if you're newer in the hair industry. You're going to get one-on-one basically class and guidance and mentorship from the person that you're collabing with. And really, all it
Totally.
takes is a little bit of initiative on your part and maybe some money to go stay out there for 2 or 3 days and just learn and grow. That, to me, I feel like that's the best thing to do if you don't have thousands of dollars to be able to do a whole course or do this whole class or this whole thing. Message someone that you're inspired by and see if you can assist them. See if you can come and
Yeah.
do a collaboration shoot with them and just take that opportunity. So many people are scared of the word no and or being told no, but really that's a part of life, is being told no for something.
Of
But you have
course.
to have enough confidence in yourself to be able to make sure that you can be told no, but then you're still going to wake up tomorrow and grind for that thing that you want, even though you were told no.
Right. And just like you were told no from the I think law enforcement. What was you had
Yeah.
yeah, you were told no, and that was disappointing to you, I'm sure, at the time. But that was it eventually turned out to be a positive thing, and it kind of reminds me of that Chinese parable. Are you familiar with the parable that I'm talking about?
No.
Okay, so just for the listener's sake, this is a phenomenal parable. I read it for the first time maybe 6 months ago, and I'm going to butcher the living heck out of this thing. Actually, no, no, no. I'm not going to butcher it. I'm going to look it up, and I'm gonna be able to read it to the listeners so I don't butcher it. Okay, give me a second. Parable goes, a long time ago, a poor Chinese farmer lost a horse, and all the neighbors came around and said, well, that's too bad. The farmer said, maybe. Shortly after, the horse returned, bringing another horse with him, and all the neighbors came around and said, well, that's good fortune. To which the farmer replied, maybe. The next day, the farmer's son was trying to tame the new horse and fell, breaking his leg, and all the neighbors came around and said, well, that's too bad. And the farmer replied, maybe. Shortly after, the emperor declared war on all neighboring on a neighboring nation and ordered all able-bodied men to come fight. Many died or were badly maimed, but the farmer's son was unable to fight and spared due to his injury because of the horse. And all the neighbors came around and said, well, that's good fortune. To which the farmer replied, maybe. And so the story goes. In other words, sometimes things seem bad or they seem really good,
Hmm.
and they turn out to maybe not be. So there you go. The Chinese farmer parable story.
Yeah, I love that because you really don't know, in the future if you're going to look back on that situation and be like, oh, thank God that didn't happen because I don't know where I would be right now. Or I learned a lot from that situation. One of my best friends says there's never failures. There's always, oh God, what does he say? There's never failures. There's always
Lessons.
opportunities, like right, growth opportunities in those things that you some people might label as failures. But if you learn something from it and you grow from it, then it's an opportunity in your life because you're coming out better after.
Absolutely. I mean, even, when you were transitioning from a traditional salon to an independent situation for the first time, and you were having a baby at the same time, and your husband lost his job at the same time, even though that was highly uncomfortable, I'm sure you learned a tremendous amount that you used later on to make yourself successful
Hmm.
in an independent situation. And so it's life is just so interesting. And as much as we all try to strangle a hold on it and control it, so often things happen and we just have to adapt in the best way and learn and then make good decisions going forward. And bad things end up being really, really beneficial down the road.
Yeah, totally. Like I try to go into any most situations as long as it's not me like having to fully prepare something for a class, but most of the time I go into situations just like today where I didn't have an expectation. I was like, all right, I'm going to show up like me, like I always show up like me, and I'm just going to be myself. And whoever is going to resonate with that is going to resonate with that. But I try not to set up any expectations for myself because you end up being disappointed when you set up such high expectations, not only for yourself, but for others, that others didn't even ask for that expectation to be set on them. So every
Mm-hmm.
situation, I just walk in and I'm like, I'm just here being me and having a good time, without
Mm-hmm.
trying to get into my head too much about different situations, hair shows, classes, anything like that. I always say if I took away and learned one thing, then it was completely worth it. And now being in the position that I'm in, being a salon owner and an educator and a mentor to so many people, I have my aha moments through other people now, which
Mm-hmm.
is pretty awesome of watching people grow. We've had two stylists come to the salon straight out of beauty school, booth rent, and they were told, you shouldn't do that. You're not going to make it. You should assist. You should do this and that. But they put in the work to assist me, to watch other people, to go to classes, to study things online that they're doing great, and they've been at the salon for a few years and they're now full time and have a steady clientele and stuff. So really what it comes down to is how much work you're willing to put into yourself and you're willing to grow. Because
Yeah.
at this point where social media is now, there really is no excuse. You're scrolling on your feed, and I'm watching like back to back five different air touch techniques, foiling techniques, placement, all of this stuff. But we're also getting into a time where it's instant kind of gratification. I liked Instagram a few years ago when the IGTV was really big, because it was more detailed and people were able to watch like a full on class on Instagram. But now it's like you have to be under a minute, 3 minute clips for people to even see it. So I think that's also
Right.
why YouTube is making kind of a comeback at this point, because I feel like
Yep.
YouTube was lost for a minute, and now YouTube's coming back and they have the YouTube shorts, yeah, but now they have the extent, like people can go on your actual YouTube and watch the whole video of you educating,
Right.
which I think is pretty awesome.
Right. Yeah, the shorts are kind of like the hook and to the longer form content. Absolutely. And at least that's how I feel about it as a consumer of the content for sure. Okay. So I want to get into your association with some brands. You're associated with about 4 brands, educating or ambassador or sponsored or whatever form. Dream catchers, we mentioned already, they do extensions. What is Duomo Pro? I looked it up real fast. That's a color. Is that the vivid color you use?
So Duomo Pro is a full color line. They have a full range color line. They have permanent hair color. They have three different lighteners, and then they have 13 vivid colors. Yes. And it's a small company, and they're just starting to grow. It's an independent company, and they are a sister company to Hanzo Shears.
Ah, interesting. Very cool. Very cool. And Olaplex is another company. And Olaplex has had a very interesting evolution from Dean's garage in Santa Barbara to him selling the business to a private equity firm, and then that private equity firm taking it public, and which is where they are now. And it's an enormous company. They sell a tremendous amount of product. Everybody knows it. But now they have competition. I mean, they had, for about those first 5 years or so, there's virtually no competition. And now there's competition. You've got K18 and a few others out there. Have you tried? I mean, maybe you're the wrong person to ask or the right person to ask, but how does a hairdresser figure out what to use for bonding?
Right. Well, Olaplex is patented and it's the original bond builder. So for me, I feel like it's the original and it's patented. So there's nothing else that I would choose to use just because I've used it from the beginning back since 2015. So I've used it since it was in Dean and Darcy's, garage. And, I've just become really close to the Olaplex family. And I feel like performance wise, it's always lived up to my expectations. So that's why I have chosen to only use Olaplex. Now, do the girls at the salon use other bonders like B3 and K18 and other things? Yes. Does it work for them? Yes. To me, ultimately, it's what you feel like works for you behind the chair and what your guests are wanting. And for me, I have never had an issue with Olaplex. I've loved Olaplex. Now, have I used other things? I have. Do I think they work? I do. But I personally have only ever truly loved Olaplex because I know 100% that my client's hair is coming back in better condition than what they came in the salon with before they got their service done. And they're able to maintain their stuff at home. And now it's at Sephora too. So they're able to pick it up at Sephora, and Olaplex gives us affiliate links too. So I think that was a huge thing that happened. That was a positive thing from COVID, is that a lot of brands wanted to still support us. So they made affiliate links for people to be able to order directly through us. And then we're still making that, commission or markup from the product.
What is the commission on the affiliate link for Olaplex?
It's 20%. Mm-hmm.
And one other thing I want to mention about Olaplex, because it's maybe some listeners are thinking about it, maybe they're not, but there was a lawsuit that came out like a month ago, and it's certain people, consumers, not hairstylists, but some consumers are claiming that it's causing hair loss and breakage and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of ironic because it's a bonder. It's supposed to strengthen the hair. So, I mean, what's your opinion? Have you read anything about that?
I've read it. I mean, we've had a few discussions in the Olaplex group about it, and I I think it's very unfortunate that these women are going through this. I lost a lot of hair because of COVID as well. I always say I don't have the confidence. I wouldn't have the confidence that I do today if I didn't have hair extensions, just because my hair is super fine and thin, and it's brittle. It breaks easy. I say the wind touches it damages it. You know, it's super fine. So I can relate to these women. I can understand like what they're going through, and my heart goes out to them. Do I think it's one situation that's causing their hair to fall out and be damaged just from Olaplex? No, I don't believe that. But I do believe that they're going through something. And I think there's a lot of situations that could make that happen for them. But I don't think it's because of Olaplex that that is happening.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious, given the type of work that you do, and the fact that you're educating and you've gotten to know other people in the industry, et cetera, and you collaborate and stuff. Give us, let's say, one name of somebody who's really inspiring you in the industry right now, like an IG handle.
Christopher Benson Hair has always
Never
inspired
heard of
me.
him. Just kidding. No, Chris is a
Yeah.
friend, and that he's been on the show a few times.
Yeah, I think that his work is, and I've watched him work, and he's like, Jessica, we need to collab. And I said, don't even say that unless you're gonna make it happen.
Don't
Because
tease me.
my world, yeah, that will just like complete me, and I'm manifesting it. And hopefully Christopher listens to this and is like, okay, we'll make it happen. Finally, I've been telling you this for like 2 years. But no, and he's in Utah too. I mean, when he's home. You know, he travels a lot and
Yeah.
stuff, but he's in Utah.
Yeah.
So I would 100% Christopher Benson. Cicely is insane. She's insane. All of her work is crazy. Pigment, Shannon, I don't know if you follow her. She does a lot of wig work stuff.
So hold on.
She's
Let's go
pretty
back to let's
incredible.
go back to Cicely. What's the Instagram handle? I don't know if I know her.
Oh, really? Okay. Let me look it up real fast so I can give you exactly what it is. It's Cicely Does My Hair.
Okay, spelled like the island,
It's
like the
Cicely.
Cicely Does My Hair. Got it. Cool. Oh wow, that is
There's
phenomenal.
just, yeah, you see,
Yeah.
there's just so many people. I really like, so talking about one shot, um, I feel like I'm never gonna be done creating, you know, like people have said to me, like, you won back to back, like, give other people a chance.
Yeah.
And I know they're kind of joking, but also at the same time, every joke has some sort of seriousness or truth to it, right? But like, I'm never gonna not create. I'm never gonna not do what I'm passionate in. I'm never not gonna enter into anything that I'm passionate about entering. I love One Shot. I love Behind the Chair. I think it's a great event for hairstylists. It's super inspiring. The first year I went was in 2019. And it was in Washington, D.C. And I took my husband with me, and I wasn't even nominated, but I was there to cheer on my friends that were. And one of my good friends won that year. And it was a groundbreaking, motivational, inspiring thing that I finally felt like I could do it. You know, like I could be
Hmm.
that person. I want to see myself up there. And I got to work, you know, and I was just studying everything. I was studying photography. I invested in a camera. I use a Canon Rebel SL2 for anybody that wants to know. I get DMs about it all the time. That is my camera that I use. It's super user friendly. And it has Wi-Fi on it. So literally I just turn on the Wi-Fi and download the app and just connect my phone to the Wi-Fi and automatically upload my images right to my phone.
So
And
cool.
then my next I feel like step would be to do something more Naha, more super avant-garde. And that's why I'm more attracted to those type of accounts and profiles right now. Because it's evolving and changing. And I'm like, all right, I checked that off my list. Now what do I do next? How do I grow next? Where do I go next? And I really want to create a like editorial type of shoot. And I
Yeah.
just need
Well,
to sit down and have a minute to think about it.
well, I mean, Chris has won more Nahas than I think that they've actually had Nahas. I call him Chris
Right.
Naha Benson. Yeah. So he sounds like a
Mhm.
pretty good guy to collab with. Do you have any hair horror stories? It could be on stage, it could be in a class, it could be in a
Oh,
salon.
it was my twin sister. When I
Of
was
course.
doing her hair
What is
in
your twin sister's name?
California. Right. Her name's Bethany. She's gonna hate me
It
for
was
this, but I'm
Bethany.
gonna call her out. It was Bethany. So she had platinum blonde hair and extensions. And she came to the salon and she didn't want hair extensions anymore. And she wanted to go all dark in a short A-line. And I
Okay.
was like, "Are you sure? This is a huge change. Like, are you sure?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm sure, whatever." So we're in the salon, even though she's my sister, we're in a full salon on a Saturday. Like clients are around, they don't know what's going on. And so I take her extension hair out. I color her hair dark. I cut it to an A line, and then she just starts sobbing, hysterically
Oh,
crying when she looked at herself in the mirror. And I was like, dude, you cannot do this right now. You can't, you're embarrassing. People are looking at me. Everyone's seeing what's going on. Like, you cannot do this. She's like, no, I like it, but it's just so different. It's just such a change. And I'm like, oh my God, let's get out of here as fast as we possibly can. And I'm never doing your hair again. Like,
yeah. You're out. You're
oh,
cut. That's
yeah. I
funny.
also fried
That's
her
really
hair in
funny.
beauty school. It was coming out like cotton. So
But
there's
that's what
you
sisters are
you
for.
have those people that you know that still loves you. Yeah. She still loves me now.
That's awesome. Any last words for the community?
I just think the biggest thing that you have to hold on to is knowing why the reason that you got into hair in the first place, and don't
Mm.
ever lose your why. I think a lot of the time people come into doing hair and they have their why set, and then through things being told no or not putting in certain situations or not growing as fast as they feel like they should be growing, they lose their why. And um and your why can change, but always know why you're doing what you're doing and who you're doing it for, and challenge yourself and don't be afraid of the no, because the no has a lot of power if you choose to use it that way.
Yeah, totally. Wise words, Jessica. Thank you so much. And I thank you
Yes,
for
you're
all the
so welcome.
listeners as well. Listeners, she's Jessica Powers Paints. Anywhere else you want them to look for you? Do you have a website?
Um, no, I just have blank canvas dot salon on Instagram is our Instagram name, and that's through the website. On all socials, it's Jessica Powers Paints. I get a little weird on my TikTok, but I'm trying to kind
Oh
of
boy.
have people relate to me on a human form. on TikTok. I think with Instagram, it was very, your page needed to be all hair. And I'm starting to kind of change my Instagram a little bit, to have people be able to relate to me. Like I said, my why is changing a little bit now, where I want to be able to be more relatable. And I want to bring more of a community together of salon owners too. I feel like that's something that is needed for sure. There's a big hairstylist community, but where's the salon owner community? Like we need to have something
Mhm.
like that. And I feel like that is my next why, is being able to connect with salon owners and have that relatability with them as well. And so, yeah, it's Jessica Powers Paints on all socials.
Awesome. There you go. Thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you, Eric. It was so fun, and I hope to do this again.